Right then, where should I start? Shiro asked with a smile, since she did tell the party that she was going to explain her new powers once everyone had woken up. Let's just start with new skills then, Lyrica suggested, as Shiro nodded her head. The first skill is Power of Faith. With this skill, I can make shrines in the city where the citizens can pray to me, and their faith is used to improve their life. I can also use this faith in emergency situations and convert it to divine energy, Shiro explained. Huh! How many shrines would you be making? And would you make a new religion? Sylvia asked curiously. I don't think I'll be doing any big announcements on this. Just make a few shrines around the place, and if they want to pray, they can. I can put up a small notice saying that praying gives you good luck and so on, but let's not force them. Once the effects make themselves clear, the populace should pray more. The best move we can do here is to not force them to become followers. Shiro smiled. I agree with that. I'm sure the spirits wouldn't mind, but the other races would need time. We should focus on making more shrines where the spirits live. Nan, Tien suggested. Nodding her head, Shiro made a note in her mind. The second skill that I received is Abnormal Adaptation. It came from Error after our last dungeon run, and it basically allows me to reduce the damage I take from an enemy. It's percentage-based, and it increases with my understanding of them. The maximum reduction is 85%. Shiro explained as the party paused. She didn't mention a limit when it comes to the tier of the person, so that meant gods were included in this. So, what's next then? Nantien asked, as the date for the new age was coming closer and closer. I'm going to make some shrines, then we'll start integrating the demons. I would have liked it if Madison was awake for this, but it's an unfortunate situation. I've checked the mech training right now, and so far it seems like it's going well, so I don't need to worry about that too much. The main concern is resources. Sure, we have farmland, but trade will become a lot harder once the new age begins. I have portals to cities, but unless we claim and protect those cities, getting resources from them will be hard. Shiro frowned as the party nodded. Since all of you are powerful, I'm thinking of stationing you in the cities that we claim as rulers. I suppose you'll be given one of these rune guardians that can mirror my stats, so it's like a mini-me by your side. It should give you enough protection, and just in case the enemy is too strong, it can be used to buy time for us to arrive. Plus, there's no time limit, and since we have 10, think of it as 10 tier 6 golems with my stats. Shiro grinned, showing in them the rune that she had received at the end of the Forgotten Realm. Since it mirrored her stats, each of them could be classified as dangers to the world. Another thing that you might want to keep in mind is that you don't have to worry if gods start threatening you, since I have the best allies when it comes to gods. After I completed my trial on top of Mount Olympus, I was able to get 2 rainbow tier equipment that allows me to use their powers along with calling them down to assist us. If the gods want to fight, I'll give them a fight. Zeus and Poseidon have a bad impression of me, but you don't have to worry about them. Hades is nice, though. He has connections with my Gramps and is my teacher when it comes to divine energy. Shiro chuckled. Heis, we're not even tier 6, and we have to worry about tier 8 beings, Sylvia complained as Shiro only smiled apologetically. Sorry about that. But I'm sure you lot will do just fine. Shiro encouraged as Sylvia shrugged. Setting that aside for now, what are we going to do about the demons then? They know that a new queen has been selected and Asphil has been trying to organize everything. However, since she's not the queen herself, it's a bit hard to rally everyone. Nantien asked as Shiro leaned back. That's a good point. While Asphil can work as a messenger for now, the demon race hasn't even seen their queen just yet. Maybe I should make an appearance. They're a race that believes in power after all. I don't want to oppress them, but leaving them out like this is not exactly a good choice. Oh, by the way, we need to prioritize Chloe's family when it comes to moving them here since she's Helion and Madison's teacher. After that, just pick one of the bigger cities, and I'll go persuade them once I finish my home visit. Shiro replied. Home visit? Yeah, I need to go talk to Yuki and have her move to the city too. Shiro smiled. Sure, I'll go help Chloe move. After that, I'll send you a compiled file on the cities in the Demon Continent. Hopefully we can get it done soon, since the new age is literally around the corner now. Nan Tian smiled. Just so you know, you lot don't get overtime pay, okay? I can't afford that kind of money. Shiro laughed. How stingy. And after all the things we've done for you, too. Arim shrugged. Though if you were to calculate all of the overtime pay you owe us, we might run your family into bankruptcy. Arim snickered. Surely not right? Shiro raised her eyebrow. Are you sure? The amount of property damage and mental damage you've caused is quite high. Chenyu reminded as Shiro coughed. Setting that aside, you lot should just rest for the last few days. We'll be busy once the new age starts after all. Shiro quickly changed the subject. Talking for a little longer, Shiro retreated from the command room and made her way to the teleport hall to make sure that everything was working. Just fine. Right now the number of teleport spots was low, but that would increase over time. People could also buy teleport nodes from the shops after they register, so that they can return to the city whenever they want. Picking the teleport node for New York, Shiro stepped through without any problems and arrived at the teleport shrine. Looking around for a moment, Shiro wanted to find a cafe store first so that she could get some cake to go along with some juice. But before she could go to the cafe, she was approached by a small group of adventurers. Excuse me, are you perhaps Shiro? A girl called out to her as Shiro tilted her head. I am. Do you need me for something? Ah, I'm your fan. Can I have an autograph, please? The girl's eyes brightened as she quickly brought out a piece of paper. And a pen. Hey, my fan. Shiro was a little surprised as the girl nodded. I've been watching the news about you since you're featured often. I heard that you defeated a Tier 6 guardian of an anchor with ease. The girl smiled as Shiro nodded her head. I did. I haven't signed before, so I'll try my best, I guess. Shiro chuckled since she wasn't used to being supported like this. In her first life, she was feared, so her fans were obviously the wrong kind of person. In her second life as Kuromi, she never bothered with the fans that followed what she had done, so she never signed anything. This was the first time that a fan had actually asked for her signature, so Shiro wondered what she should even write. Thinking about it for a moment, she settled with just writing her name in cursive, with the S enlarged. Is this all right? Shiro asked, as the girl nodded her head. Yes, it is. Thank you. She bowed. Min, take this. You should know about the New Age, right? When things get dangerous, you can use this to teleport to a city called Asharia. If you register there, it should work as a safe place for you to stay when the New Age arrives. Shiro said, as she handed the girl a small teleport node that could be used for her party and family if she wanted. A hologram of the way to use it would appear when she injected mana, so Shiro wasn't worried about whether or not she could use it properly. Just inject your mana if you want to use it. Shiro smiled before leaving the area. Disappearing from her spot immediately, she arrived at the cafe and ordered some snacks. Meanwhile, the girl held the teleport node and the autograph, happily before making her way into the teleport shrine with the rest of her party. Sitting in the cafe, Shiro tapped away at her phone while checking up on the recent news that was linked to Winter's Grace. Thanks to Yuki's return, they started to progress towards being one of the top then factions thanks to her knowledge. The resource spots that they could find along with support from the Asakura family allowed her to train up powerful faction members. They were also active in helping the community through the bounty board, where the rewards were provided by the faction itself depending on how difficult the task was. If a granny wanted someone to accompany her for a day, the faction would provide the rewards in place of the granny so that she didn't spend her own money. Overall, the public view of Winter's Grace was on the good side. Reading this, Shiro smiled as she finished her juice and the last piece of her cake. Seems like it'll be good to move the headquarters of the faction to Asharia so that there's some backing, I suppose. Demons will be in the city, but if Winter's Grace and Rising Sun were to vouch for them, it'll help the demons integrate into the city. Indeed. But wouldn't the Winter's Grace and Rising Sun suffer some backlash? Nimue asked as Shiro nodded. Of course. They will definitely get some backlash, but for the long-term benefits, this bit of backlash will be okay. Because once the New Age begins, they'll understand that Asharia welcomes everyone regardless of race, as long as you follow the rules. Shiro smiled. Min will have to see though, since everything could backfire, and no one would want to go to Asharia. Nimue shrugged. That is indeed a possibility, but I do hope that I don't see it. Shiro shrugged while making her way out of the sword. Jumping into the air, she flew towards the direction of Winter's Grace, now that she had reached Tier 6 and obtained a demigod class. The usage of her divine energy was much easier, since there's not only a bigger supply, but a faster regeneration. Shiro estimated that she could probably use 5 to 6 original spells in a fight without worry, and the rest of the energy can be used for enhancement. After a few minutes, Shiro could see the Winter's Grace branch located in Variscia. She wanted to come to the branch first, since she had 2 old friends here that she wanted to see first before going to the headquarters. As for the headquarters, they had moved locations once Yuki had returned, and the spot they picked was above Mount Fuji after the Ice Queen left. Shiro could remember that she planted an anchor here, but it seems like she was able to move it, considering the fact that the only sign of them ever being here was the ice city they left behind. Since the Queen had left, Yuki took advantage of this place and made it the headquarters. Landing on the roof of the Elder's Tower, Shiro could sense Natasha's mana signature along with Freya's. Climbing down the side, she opened the window. Yo, Natash, it's been a while, hasn't it? Shiro greeted as Natash dropped her pen in shock. She was about to enter a combat stance when she noticed who it was. Ah, it's actually you. I thought that you died in a dungeon or something, considering the fact that you never came back, Natash said as her smile twitched. Rangob as, ahaha, sorry about that. I was busy with quite a few things and I even got my memory back. Shiro chuckled. Climbing through the window, she sat down on the sofa. So how has it been? Shiro asked, while offering some juice. Accepting the juice, Natash was rather surprised by how it tasted. It's been more or less fine. After the faction master returned, the applications for the faction have increased, and we're not far from becoming the top 5. If you were here, I would have gotten you to do some paperwork in my stead. Natash smiled. You know I was just a guest elder. I don't have the normal responsibilities. Shiro grinned as Natash rolled her eyes. So you would have enjoyed watching me getting buried by paperwork? Of course, Shiro replied instantly since it was obvious. Shh, so how come you're here now? With the news talking about you all the time, I can't imagine that you'll need the resources from this faction, Natash asked with a smile. I'm here to give you an offer. Well, I say you, but it's really for everyone here. I've created a city, called Asheria, that's going to act as a safe haven of sorts when the new age hits. I'm going to be going to the main headquarters of Winter's Grace and ask Yuki about moving to the city too. Since I was under your care here for a while, I wanted to offer you the same. Shiro smiled. You made a city? Natash was surprised since making a city was no easy feat. Yup. I'm sure you know how dangerous the new age is going to be. While I can't save everyone, I can try to save as much as I can. In the city, there are spirits, elves, humans, and in the close future, demons. Hearing that the city will have demons, Natash frowned. The city will have demons? You know we are not in a good relationship, right? One of the common goals for adventurers here is killing demons. If you put the two together, they'll react like cold water in hot oil, Natash warned, as Shiro nodded her head. I know, but these demons are governed by a proper ruler. You should know her. It's Madison. Due to some special circumstances, she has become their queen, and we know that demons aren't too different from humans. It's only the low-tier demons that have no sense of self, similar to how bandits are, Shiro explained, as Natash sat down, with a difficult expression. It sounds nice, but I don't know how the rest of the faction will react. I know, but whether or not they want to come is up to them. But if they choose to come, they must respect the rules that are in place. If they don't, they'll be punished accordingly. I'll be going to the headquarters now. Here's a file on everything you need to know about the city. Share it with Freya so that she knows too. Tell me your answer using the number in the file, okay? Shiro smiled as the rift opened up beside her. Placing the file on the table, Shiro left the room as Natash sat in silence and read the file. Seeing all the defensive properties of the city, such as mechs and turrets, Natash felt like it was simply impossible for all of this to be true. But with her understanding of Shiro, Natash knew that Shiro wasn't one to joke around with these things. Grabbing the file, she made her way down so that she could share everything with Freya. Even if the faction didn't want to go, she was going to go since a safe place would become a rarity in the New Age. Seems like she's made the right decision, Nimue muttered as Shiro nodded her head. Even though the file looks ridiculous, she knows that everything inside is true. With the threat of the New Age, refusing such an offer would be a poor choice. Shiro smiled as she opened a portal to Japan so that she could go to the headquarters that was now located on Mount Fuji. Stepping through the portal, Shiro instantly arrived in Asakura City, since this was the closest she could get using her own teleport nodes. However, it didn't bother her too much since reaching Mount Fuji was just a short trip. Meanwhile, on Mount Fuji, Yuki had a frown on her face, since there were several reports of high-tier monsters, as well as a queen, placing her anchor near the mountain. Knowing the power of queens, fighting her would be devastating, and the casualties would be through the roof. Biting her nail, she sighed after seeing the latest report of another queen stationing her anchor nearby. With 2 queens as her neighbors, staying here would be difficult. We'll have to evacuate everyone to a different location. Yuki thought to herself, but doing so would be rather difficult. Suddenly, a man burst into the room with a panicked expression. Faction leader. A messenger. From the Queens has sent demands us to surrender and work under the Queen. What? Bring me to him. Yuki frowned as this wasn't good. Standing up, she followed the man to meet this so-called messenger. Sitting in the office with his legs crossed, a dark-skinned demi-human sat with a smile. He wore a black tuxedo as horns peeked out of his black hair. With silver eyes and a pair of glasses, he glanced up at Yuki, who had just arrived in the office. Greeting. Faction Master of Winter's Grace, he called out as Yuki nodded. I heard from my subordinate that you're a messenger from one of the queens. Indeed. I'm here to give you an offer. The demi-human nodded as he stood up. An offer? That's a nice way to put it when you apparently demanded us to surrender. Yuki furrowed her brows. Sensing her hostility, the demi-human only laughed. Yes, I did indeed say that, and I have no intention to retract that statement. But I do believe that phrasing it as an offer sounds more pleasant. The Constellation Queen demands your subordination. Should you reject, we'll have to eliminate you and replace your current standing amongst the humans with someone else. The demi-human warned as his aura exploded out, pushing Yuki back by a few steps as her face paled slightly from the force. Calming her mind, she glared at him. Are you not afraid of your neighbor that has appeared near here? Or do you not know about the other queen? Yuki asked, as she stood her ground with a fierce glare. Pfft, ha ha ha, of course we know about her. In fact, we're allies. You see, there have been a few individuals who had attacked a number of queens before the New Age, so we have decided to form an alliance. After all, one of the attackers was a queen herself, and she has stopped the takeover of several potential anchor points, breaking the treaty that all the queens have agreed to. He smiled. What's that to do with me? With the powers at your disposal, I'm sure you can just go for one of the bigger guilds. Why Winter's Grace? Yuki asked. Indeed, let's just say your base is on a rather interesting location. It is where the Ice Queen appeared in this world. She found a way to move the anchor, so we're here to investigate. If we can find a way to move the first anchor that we placed, it would be very beneficial. Oh, then can't you just say that? The Winter's Grace will surrender this mountain to you, if that's what you want, Yuki said, as a full-on confrontation with the queens will destroy the faction for sure. If the mountain was what they want, she'll let them have it and evacuate the members immediately. No, you see, since you're already here, we might as well put you to use. Plus, with your current standing amongst the humans, using you as an intermediary is beneficial for us. I've wasted enough breath here, so I'll ask you one last time. Will you become the subordinate of the Constellation Queen, or will you die? Choose wisely, since we'll get rid of everyone in the mountain if you don't. The demi-human narrowed his eyes as Yuki frowned. Flexing her finger, she summoned her phone and tapped the screen. Suddenly alarms rang out through the entire faction building, as it was a sign to immediately abandon everything and evacuate. Sorry. I'm not becoming your subordinate. You see, I have a good friend, and she'll be awfully disappointed if I did. Yuki grinned, as a layer of ice instantly formed around the office. Clasping her hands together, ice shot out of the walls and pierced towards the demi-human. Shame. He shook his head. Waving his hand, fire erupted out of his body and melted. The ice, in an instant. You think we didn't do research about you? The problem of being a figure in the eyes of the masses is that information about you is easily obtained. He laughed. Before he could say another word, Yuki appeared in front of him. Flash freeze. She muttered, as cold mist would appear with her every breath. There was a single flash of light before the entire area was covered by a blizzard. The demi-human was now encased in a layer of ice, but Yuki knew that it wasn't enough. While she has reached Tier 5 after being rescued, she knew that she was still lacking when it came to fighting against a messenger of a queen. Ranovush, however, her goal was not to kill him. It was to delay the time so that the members could evacuate. Glancing down, she could see the staff leading the evacuation and smiled slightly. Slamming her palm against the surface of the ice, a Tier 5 seal appeared as light blue chains erupted. Tier 5 glacial magic. Glacial prison. Suddenly, large pillars of ice broke through the ground of Mount Fuji and pierced high into the sky as the chains that erupted out of the ice were connected to these pillars. Strike down with your might. Yuki shouted out as a Tier 5 magic circle appeared in the air. The cloud started to swirl as the tip of a silver spear appeared in front of the portal. Flinching for a moment, Yuki bit her lips and slammed her hand down. Bang! Sending out a shockwave, the spear pierced towards the frozen demi-human, with a trail of silver lights flickering behind it. Shattering the ice apart, the spear shrank down and flew towards Yuki. Grabbing it out of the air, she twirled it for a moment before entering a combat stance. While her close-quarters combat wasn't that great, this spear helped her amplify her glacial magic and can freeze with a single touch. Plus, it had a decent amount of armor penetration, so it was her preferred weapon against stronger combatants. Not bad for someone weak like you. A voice rang out from behind Yuki as she immediately slashed behind her with her spear. Catching it with his index finger and middle finger, a fire burned at the tip, preventing his hands from getting frozen over. Glancing back, Yuki forced a smile as she opened her mouth. Glacial throne world. Distorting the space around her, she forcefully dragged the demi-human into her throne world. Her throne world was simple, as large columns of ice could be seen beneath a starry sky. Jumping back, she summoned the spear back to her hand as she activated a second skill. Frozen Doppelganger. Next to her, an exact copy of her made from ice appeared. Charging towards the demi-human without saying anything, her doppelganger fell through the frozen floor and reappeared behind him. Twisting her body, the doppelganger swung her spear, which he was able to dodge with ease. Shaking his head, his body flickered in front of Yuki and grabbing her throat. Bang! Slamming her down against the ground, he raised his eyebrow when he realized that she had traded places with her doppelganger. Glancing back, he saw her etching out a Tier 5 magic circle on the ground with her spear. Great burial. Krrrr! The ground split apart in an instant, as hands created from ice latched onto his body, dragging him down while the ice slowly repaired itself. Slamming her hand against the ground, the floor of the throne world sunk down by several tens of meters, as she compressed everything beneath her. Normally this would have been enough to kill most of her enemies, but sensing his aura that was burning brighter than before, she forced a smile. What a monster! She muttered as a column of fire broke through her ice. Expanding instantly, her entire throne world was melted apart as she was flung through the sky. Crashing against the floor of Mount Fuji, Yuki coughed up a mouthful of blood. Any last words? The demi-human smirked as Yuki glared at him. Forcing a smile, she laughed. Yeah, I do. I learnt this from my friend, so I do hope you'll enjoy it. She's quite a nice person. You should meet her. Yuki grinned as she launched the spear. Towards his waist area, Poochie! Piercing his lower half, the demi-human wanted to cry out with pain, but he gritted his teeth and held back the scream. Pulling the spear out, he glared at her and quickly healed his lower half. Throwing the spear towards her head, he cursed in his mind. However, before the spear could hit, a figure flashed in front of Yuki and grabbed the spear with ease before planting it into the ground. "Say, can I know your name?" Her voice rang out as her white hair fluttered in the wind. Surprised at her sudden appearance, the demi-human was curious, since her aura was almost negligible. But the fact that she easily caught her spear meant that she had some strength. "Why, would a maiden such as yourself want my name? I'm merely a messenger." He smiled when she disappeared. Widening his eyes, he coughed up a mouthful of blood as her hand had pierced through his chest. "So that I can carve your name onto a gravestone." Shiro's voice rang out as she was absolutely livid, healing him. Up in an instant, she grabbed his head and tore it from his shoulders. Shredding his body, she regenerated him a new one and held him in the air. "We're far from done," she warned, as her blood-red eyes glowed menacingly. "Please, just kill me." The demi-human begged, as a large part of the snow on the mountain was now dyed by his blood. His mind couldn't take the feeling of being killed over and over again, the pain that he felt that continued to replay itself. Every time Shiro healed him, "You want to die?" Shiro asked as the man nodded his head furiously. "Why don't you give me some information first then? I'll give you a merciful death." Shiro narrowed her eyes. Hearing this, the demi-human hesitated, which caused Shiro to frown, but he immediately panicked seeing this. "I'll talk," he cried out. Shiro nodded. "The Constellation Queen has power over the stars. She can draw power from the constellations and use them to empower herself. She is most powerful at night, since that's when the constellations are visible. She is also able to create a fake world with the constellations of other worlds," he explained. However, a green fire erupted from within his body as Shiro furrowed her brows. Even if she tried to heal him, the fire refused to burn out. "Chai." Clicking her tongue, Shiro let go of the man and allowed him to die. "How rude. I was just asking your messenger about you." Shiro looked up at the sky. "Yuki, you should get out of here for now." "I'm not sure if we'll fight, but if we do, you might be killed as collateral damage," Shiro warned as Yuki nodded her head. Since Shiro had healed her, she was able to move without problem. "Be careful." "I know, don't worry. Just remember this. Get as far away as you can. If you can still see us fight, that means it's not safe. Keep going until we're out of sight." Shiro smiled. Glancing at Shiro's back, Yuki prayed for her safety in her mind before leaving the area. After Yuki left, a portal opened up, and a woman stepped through with an expression that looked as though everything was beneath her. She had long black hair with some white highlights and a pair of azure eyes. She wore a dark blue one-piece dress that was transparent around the edges and had images of constellations which shimmered ever so slightly. She also wore a black, unbuttoned cardigan that flowed behind her. A servant with a loose tongue should be taken care of. Though I did not expect him to run into trouble, hence why I didn't pay much attention. "For you to stay behind, do you think you can defeat me with the information you've obtained?" the Queen asked as Shiro smirked. "Maybe, but I must say you're quite hasty, aren't you? The new age is coming in a few days, and you're actually making a move before everything happened. Funny hearing that from you who broke the treaty that everyone agreed upon." The Queen narrowed her eyes. "But ha, I wasn't even there when the treaty was made. I'm a queen from this world. Plus, even if I was there, what makes you think I would agree to it? The queens that agreed to this are just uncertain about their personal power. They're afraid of the risks." Shiro grinned as her bloodlust permeated the area. Furrowing her brows slightly, the Queen glanced down at Shiro. "Impudent, do you think you can go against two queens at once?" "Of course I do, but before that, why don't you come down? Having me look up hurts the neck, you know?" Shiro smiled as her divine energy exploded forth and slammed into the Queen's body. Widening her eyes, the Queen gritted her teeth but was eventually forced down against the ground. Frowning slightly, she knew that she was no match for Shiro just from that short demonstration. Clasping her hands together, a Tier 6 magic circles expanded out as she knew that she should probably run. "Not so fast." Shiro chuckled. Flicking her finger, a tiny splinter of ice shot towards the magic circle and shattered it apart. Seeing this, the Queen didn't hesitate and pulled out a small dagger from her inventory. Swiping it horizontally, the space around her distorted as she disappeared before Shiro could attack her. Must have been quite the treasure for it, to take effect that quickly. Shiro narrowed her eyes before shrugging. She had sensed a second queen earlier, but after her small demonstration, they both retreated, so there wasn't much she could do. Though if she really wanted to fight them, she wouldn't mind. The reason why she did this was due to the damage that their fight could create. Plus, with the warning from Nyx last time, she was careful about how she demonstrated her power. After all, she could cause mass destruction and kill countless innocents, if she wasn't paying attention. Kinobits. With the two queens leaving the area, Shiro glanced towards the evacuating faction members and looked for Yuki's mana signature. Seeing that she was helping everyone evacuate, Shiro teleported besides her. I'm done. The two queens should leave this area alone for now. Shiro called out, as Yuki felt like she was going to have a heart attack since Shiro appeared out of nowhere. It's done already, she asked with disbelief as Shiro nodded her head. Of course. Who do you think I am? Shiro grinned. Anyways, setting that aside, I should probably tell you what I came here for. Since everyone is already evacuating, it makes things easier. Yuki, do you want to move everyone in Winter's Grace to the city I created, Asheria? Shiro smiled as Yuki blinked. Huh? I'm explaining to Yuki what she needed to know about the city, along with the reasons for construction and future plans while they walked back to her office. Shiro waited for her response. So you're saying that this city will have demons in it as well? Yuki asked as Shiro nodded her head. Yup. You know a lot of people here have quite the hatred against the demons, right? Yuki reminded as Shiro nodded again. I know that. But you're still suggesting that it's probably best for the faction to move its main headquarters to this city? Bingo. Shiro smiled as Yuki sighed. Since demons aren't living in the city just yet, I think moving everyone over shouldn't be too hard. The problem is when you want to move the demons to the city, since some of the faction members might revolt. Yuki frowned. I know, but after living on the city for a bit, they should understand the consequences of not following the rules. Yuki, I'm not hosting a charity. I'm creating something that can be a safe place for all the races that decide to come under my protection. Having people that can't band together in the time of need would only be a hindrance, and if they can't overcome it, then shame on them. I'm not going to break my back trying to help those people if they aren't willing to set aside their differences for now. Shiro replied with a shrug. That's true. So, out of curiosity, how dangerous is this new age exactly? I've got some information from the news, but it's better to hear it from you since you know the details better than they do. Yuki asked as Shiro placed a hand on her chin. If things don't go well, this entire world will be destroyed. However, if it does go well, the world will be saved. Is the general gist of it, I guess. Shiro shrugged, since that was the best way she can describe it in simple terms. Hearing this, Yuki furrowed her brows. So, end of the world scenario then. Good to know. Yuki sighed. If it don't be like that, it's not like it's set in stone. Shiro chuckled. If she proceeded carefully and made sure she survived to the end, she can get the system to create this new hub of life that it had set out to create. Once that is done, the cycle of creating new gardens and resetting the universe will end. True. All right, I'll do what I can and support you to the end. We did promise to make Winter's Grace into one of the biggest guilds after all. Yuki grinned as Shiro nodded her head. I'll give you a file on the finer details. In the meantime, I'll scan your headquarters and move it to the city. I'll also expand it a little so that you can fit more faction members in it. Shiro smiled as Yuki raised her eyebrow. Will it fit? She asked curiously. Of course it will. Just look at its size. Shiro laughed as she pointed up. Slowly, a giant portal opened up as the city revealed itself, and Yuki was rendered speechless at its size. Transporting the headquarters of Winter's Grace to Asheria was an easy task. Watching the headquarters being recreated using nanobots, Yuki didn't know how to react since the headquarters took them a while to make, and yet Shiro was able to do it in a few minutes. As for moving the luggage, the spirits, elves, and the sect members were more than happy to help their new neighbors. Most of the faction members were fine with everything, but the newcomers were a bit skeptical since it seemed too good to be true. Those that wanted to leave were allowed to, while those that decided to stay but had bad intentions were asked to leave. A simple scan of their expressions told the AI pretty much everything they needed to know. So filtering out the people was easy. Those that wanted to take pictures of the tech and upload it to the internet were allowed to, since it wasn't like they could recreate it. Right now, Asheria was host to Winter's Grace, Asakura City, the spirit capital, the hidden sect, Rising Sun, and there were more platforms being reserved for new additions such as the demons. Checking the internet, Shiro smirked at the chaos that her city was causing, since things that they believed couldn't be real was shown in the city. Large mechs, giant cannons and technology that far surpassed the limit of the current era. There were people who demanded that she share this with the rest of the world, but Shiro didn't give two shits and took over the internet for a short period of time, releasing a statement saying the technology is limited to Asheria, anyone who has any intention to steal it would be dealt with accordingly, and that there is a limit to how many people can stay in this city. Since the world was going to change, Shiro decided that she might as well be transparent with the limitations of this city. While it was big, it couldn't accommodate everyone, and giving them false hope of accommodation would be cruel. Relinquishing control of the internet, she went about her day while the government was receiving countless complaints from all sides. However, with Grengel's and Zack's recommendation, they decided to take Shiro's side in this and support her development. Should she create more cities like this, they would help her as much as they could. Naturally, this was made clear through Grangel, as he was sent as an intermediary for now. Plus, he received an offer from Shiro to stay in the city, so he agreed, while also working for the government. Delivering the message to Shiro, Grangel was allowed to stay in the center of the city. Since the government is now supporting everything, I guess it wouldn't hurt too much to absorb their military power as reinforcement. If I were to make more branch anchors, surrounding it in a city would be handy, but it wouldn't compare to Asheria, Shiro muttered while sitting in the command room. Looking at the city that was now flourishing, Shiro had been sending drones out to place more teleport nodes for ease of access. While they could buy an item from the shops that made a node for you and them, it had a limited amount of usability, since it'll expire after a few uses. Having nodes that acted like a teleport shrine would be helpful. Maybe you should allow people to come here like a temporary hub of sorts. They can come here to buy items and weapons before leaving. It might also be beneficial to create a hotel so that they can stay overnight if they're tired. Izuel suggested as Nimue nodded her head. Izuel's right. This city doesn't have to be a permanent home for people. I agree, but there are some problems with that. If we just let them come, then an army of queens can just ambush us from the center and ruin everything. While I can create teleport nodes, it doesn't filter out the queens just yet. Since the queens don't have the power to face me right now, I'm setting that aside. But I'm having drones work on preventing queens from using the teleport node. Should someone with the mana resembling a queen enter, they'll be teleported away from Asheria. But it's still a work in progress, so Isilia is helping out with finding a common signal between queens and empresses. Shiro replied as Nimue furrowed her brows. That's true. What if you add a separate hub then? Like the security, gates at one of those places called an airport. They'll confirm your identity using the ID code they receive upon registering with the city. For those that haven't registered, they can go to a separate shop for now similar to the auction house's tablets, and a drone will deliver the product to them. Nimue suggested as Shiro nodded her head. That might work. Plus, since it's transported, using drones, if there's a problem, they can't blame us. Shiro nodded her head and tapped on her screen. Samuel, are you there? She called out as Samuel's face appeared on a screen. You called, Your Highness? I'm going to send you a project. File on something I want to be created. I'll give you level 4 access on the drones to get this done quickly. Once it's done, give me a message and I'll sort out the rest. You're allowed to use Hangar 10 for the construction of this since it needs to be big. I've already moved all of the mechs from Hangar 10 to 9, so you don't need to worry about space. Shiro ordered, as Samuel nodded his head. Renoise, understood. I'll get to it right away. Ending the call, Shiro sent him the file. Wait, where are we even going to place this separate gateway and store? Nimue asked as Shiro just proceeded without saying anything. When Estrella reaches Tier 6, what do you think will happen with her power of space? Even if the Queen were to arrive, we'll just isolate in that space. Shiro grinned as Nimue paused. Once a person reached Tier 6, their control over their element would increase significantly. For Estrella, keeping a pocket dimension to work as a gateway was simple as breathing, and if a fight does break out, isolating a single target before she can harm someone was within reason. Plus, it wasn't like she was taking care of multiple dimensions. It was just a single one that connects to every single teleport node. Plus, I can make it so that if you have received special permission, you can bypass this gate. That way they wouldn't need to wait if the queue is large. What will you do if the amount of people entering the gateway is bigger than expected? Nimue asked, as it would get hectic. Since it's made from nanobots, I can easily expand the building, you know. Space isn't a problem, since Estrella will be able to help me. You've seen how big her space could expand to. Once she reaches Tier 6, it would be bigger. Shiro smiled as Nimue nodded. Setting that aside, just as she was about to continue, she felt a spike of mana within the tower, and the clouds darkened in the sky. Feeling a large surge of demonic energy, Shiro grinned. Seems like Madi is waking up. Took her a while, huh? Standing up, she grabbed her jacket and walked towards Madison's room. The rest of the party wasn't far behind her either, since they've also sensed the magic. Arriving in front of Madison's room, they opened the door and saw Helion standing in front of the crystal with a serious expression. Right now, the surface of the crystal was completely black. As cracks appeared in the corners, demonic energy would leak from the cracks and permeate the room as the aura continued to grow. Kerr! Suddenly, a large fracture appeared down the center as the aura shot up and reached the realm of Tier 6. A delicate hand reached out and grabbed the edge before ripping the crystal apart. Fucking hell, I'm starving. Why the hell was I stuck for? So long! Madison shouted out in rage as the crystal pieces were sent flying across the room before vaporizing into black mist. Madison LVL 501 Demon Queen. Yo, the Sleeping Beauty finally woke up, huh? How does your body feel? Shiro called out with a smile as Madison glanced over. A bit cold, but it seems like my physique lost a bit of muscle. How can I tank properly now, huh? Madison replied. However, when she glanced down, she realized that only a black mist was swirling around her body, helping her cover up what's important. Seeing that all the males in the room had the decency to look away, Madison coughed and grabbed a dress from her inventory. May I get changed first? She said, with a forced smile as Shiro nodded her head and left the room with the rest of the party. As the last one to walk out, the party could see that Helion had a blush on his face. Seeing this, Shiro, Lyrica, and Sylvia had a smug smile on their face. You got a peek, didn't you? Lyrica smirked as Helion coughed violently. After getting changed, Madison walked out of the room to see Helion getting teased by the three demoness while looking at her for help. Opening her mouth, Madison mouthed the following words. You're on your own, good luck. Sitting in the cafeteria, Madison was eating some food while glancing at the rest of the party. So can you lot fill me in on what's been happening recently? Madison asked as Shiro nodded her head. Of course. But I'm sure there's something else that we're curious about first. How did you reach Tier 6 directly, and why did it take so long for you to evolve? Shiro asked as the party nodded their heads. Well, while I was in the crystal, I was actually in a different space. I met the old god that I'm a descendant of, and he was helping me master my power, as well as help me refine my energy to reach Tier 6. Madison shrugged while eating another mouthful of food. So you met the demon god Markon, huh? Did he tell you anything important about the New Age? Shiro asked curiously. Not really. All he said was that since I've allied myself with you, it's best that I prepare myself for grave dangers. He didn't explain what the dangers were since he wanted me to master my energy first, but he mentioned that it was something to do with demons. Madison replied. Ah, right. I might have pissed off 60+ demon gods, but that's not important for now. It's not like they're arriving immediately, so we can set them aside. Shiro nodded nonchalantly as Madison dropped her fork. Anyways, I think you were able to reach Tier 6 so quickly is because Markon must have shared some of his power with you. While it's only a little, I definitely sense some divine energy in your body that's constantly helping you refine your energy. From now on, even if you don't do anything, you'll get stronger. I'm not sure what your lifespan is right now, but it's far surpassed what could be considered the limit. While you might not be ageless like a god, I can say that you'll live for a long fucking time. Shiro grinned and gave her a thumbs up. Maddie, even though you're the one who wanted to be the most normal out of all of us, you're actually the closest one to reaching Shiro's standard since you've got divine energy in you. Now, Lyrica laughed as Madison wanted to cry. However, her chances of being normal were long obliterated since she finally found out the reason for awakening her bloodline. That was because the moment she met Shiro, her bloodline that belonged to a god reacted to her dormant divine energy. She was doomed the moment she met Shiro. Even if they didn't become friends, she would have become abnormal sooner or later. Thinking back to this, Madison felt like crying again. Goodbye, normality. It was fun knowing you, even if it was all just an illusion. So is there anything else that I need to know? I'm sure it is less shocking than the fact that she pretty much pissed off an entire pantheon of gods, Madison asked, while resting her chin on the table. Should I summarize everything related to gods first so that we can get it out of the way? Shiro asked, as Madison nodded. Let's see. In terms of enemies, you already know about the 60+ demon gods. However, I have also pissed off 2 light goddesses, a light god, Zeus, Poseidon, and maybe a few others from the Greek pantheon. In terms of allies, I have close ties with Hades since my bloodline is that of reapers that work under him. I also have the 5 primordial gods backing me up along with the being before them, Chaos. You'll see them during the second half of the New Age when the gods descend. Gaia is nice. She's a battle junkie like me, but she doesn't have much combat power, so we'll be using mechs for her. Nyx is nice too. Some of the oldies sound strict and mean, but just think of them as tsunderes, and it'll be fine. What else? All right! I've become a proper demigod now, and Lysandra will be able to use divine energy once she finishes her upgrade to Tier 6. Shiro explained, as Madison was trying her best not to react to the things that she had just said so nonchalantly, even though they were completely insane. Gaia wishes to express her agreement. Kronos, Uranos, and Tartarus are raising their eyebrows at your statement of calling them oldies. Nyx is laughing at the 3 gods' expressions while restraining Gaia so that she may not propose using the system message. Reading the 3 notifications, Shiro's smile twitched as she showed a hologram of the messages to the party. See? They're not as majestic as you might imagine, Shiro shrugged. Seeing this, Madison decided to focus on her meal while listening to everything. Looking at the city, she didn't think that something like this was actually possible, but that wasn't her main focus. Ugh, I actually missed your birthday, Madison sighed. It's fine, there's always a party next year, you know. Shiro chuckled as Madison nodded. I know, but Heis, stupid Crystal actually sealed me up for so long. Plus, Markon was so happy to see his great-great repeated many times granddaughter. We settled for just calling me granddaughter and me calling him Gramps, but I have to say, my impression of gods from now on is pretty much shattered. I thought Gramps was an exception, but it seems like all the gods aren't so different. At least, the ones you know. Madison shrugged as Shiro nodded. Anov. True. With how the system is, I'd say that gods are just very powerful people that lived for a long time. There hasn't been a true biblical god that is all-powerful and all-knowing. Though I guess the system fits that premise a little, doesn't it? Shiro smiled. However, she knew that it couldn't be called the biblical god either. After all, her future self removed it from this world. She still had her concerns about it, since she didn't know what caused her to remove the system. Plus, Lysandra was still normal right now. Her wings were still white, and it was nothing like the black wings she had in the future. Maybe Lysandra was the cause. If I was to think of it as a fallen angel, something might have happened that forced her to fall, hence why I got rid of the system. If the system isn't around, she'll keep her sense of self since falling was something caused by the system. Shiro thought to herself. Take it easy for now, Shiro. While there are many mysteries around the system, the benefits it brings can't be denied. Since it hasn't acted up for now, we should let it be but keep an eye on it, Nimue reminded as Shiro nodded her head. Don't worry, I know. Setting that aside, how's Estrella doing? Shiro asked. Her aura is increasing, but it's slow. It's similar to what happened with Madison, but it's being stretched out. At this rate, she'll reach Tier 6 after the new age starts. That delays things a bit, but that's fine. We don't need to get the gateway constructed immediately. Since our territory is limited to just this city, I can stay here and monitor everything. Even if they invade, I'll send them out. But once we have more cities, the gateway will be needed. I know that Madison's just woken up, but do you want to make a move on getting the demons into the city now? Nantian asked. Thinking about it, Shiro glanced at Madison. What do you think? Since you're their ruler now, it's up to you. Plus, you also need to set up your anchor, don't you? Shiro smiled as Madison nodded her head. Yeah, I'll help you move everyone to this city. As for my anchor, Gramps helped me make it and compress it down to this jewel. Right now it has no benefits, but the moment I want to set it down, he said that I can just push my energy through it, and it'll expand. He did say that I should make a contract with you first before putting it down since we're allies. It'll make the process easier, because the system apparently recognizes us as enemies if we set the anchor next to one another, and changing that is a pain. Madison shrugged as Shiro nodded her head. Sure, we'll work on the contract once we get everyone to the city. The demons might take some more convincing, so we should start immediately. Shiro smiled as they discussed their plans for a little, longer before setting course for the demon continent again. Standing on the edge of Asheria, Madison watched as they flew above the ground. Looking at the small villages that passed in a blink of an eye, she stayed silent and fell deep into thought. Are you all right? A voice called out as Madison glanced back and saw Helion. Min, I am. Just kind of in awe at everything that's happened. Shiro was able to create this masterpiece. I became the ruler of a race and basically became one of the most powerful people in the world. Madison chuckled as Helion smiled. That tends to happen when you hang out with Shiro. He shrugged while standing next to the railings with her. Indeed. Looking at those tiny villages really makes you think, huh? How power makes them seem so small and insignificant. I feel like I could destroy it if I accidentally squeezed too hard. Madison sighed as she looked at the villages that were smaller than her hand from this height. While they seem small and insignificant, you'll never know if there's anyone in there that has the potential to become someone great. I think that's quite amazing that you can find a hidden gem anywhere in the world, even in the most unlikely places. Helion chuckled. I don't even know why I'm acting like this. I guess becoming responsible for an entire race is really setting in now. Madison laughed as she tilted her head back and looked up at the sky. It's a tough responsibility. I know, I just don't know if I can do it well. I was never that good at studies, so my knowledge outside of combat was limited. My ability to judge people has been a bit poor, as Shiro could tell thanks to the friends I had before I met her and Lyrica. If it wasn't for our little bet, I would probably become a villainess of some sort. Madison smiled softly. I'm sure you'll do fine. You got everyone here to support you after all. I don't know what you were like before, but now you have friends that you can rely on. Helion encouraged, as Madison nodded. Seems like you two are having a rather romantic talk. Want to fill me in on the details? A voice called out from beneath. Them, as a white and red mech, hovered in the air while maintaining a pose similar to laying on the bed. It had its chin resting on the hands, while the legs kicked back and forth. Opening the cockpit, they could see Shiro sitting there with a smile while the rest of the party was inside. Want to hop in? I was just showing them what the standard units could do since some of them missed the demonstration. Shiro asked as Madison glanced at Helion and shrugged. Let's go. She smiled as Helion nodded. Hopping into the mech, Shiro closed the cockpit before diving down close to the ground. So what were you guys talking about? It seemed like you were worried about something. Of course, if it's about your love life, we won't pry. Shiro chuckled. Hace, where is your mind wandering to while piloting this hunk of metal? Madison sighed, while knocking Shiro's head slightly. Just curious. Shiro laughed. It wasn't anything too important, just wondering if I'll do a good job as a queen. Madison shrugged. You're worried about that. The responsibility is rather heavy, isn't it? Shiro nodded in understanding. Yeah, sometimes I just feel like throwing up when I think about the responsibilities. Madison sighed. Honestly, just find someone capable of organizing things and drop everything to them. Occasionally show your face and you'll be fine. Shiro encouraged with a thumbs up as Madison raised her eyebrow. What? Why do you think I leave everything to Nantian? If I had to deal with everything, I'd be exhausted. Shiro shrugged. But he's left to deal with everything now, Madison reminded. I know, but he's got Samuel to help him along with the other Spirit Council members. Plus, Keiko let me borrow some of her capable staff to help out with a bit of the organization of the place. Honestly, I just deal with the combat side of things rather than everything else since I'm a bit dull in that regard, I suppose. Shiro. It laughed, since it was the truth. She was much better at combat compared to everything else, hence why she left everything up to Nantian and the others. Part of it was because she trusted their capabilities, and the other part was just that she couldn't be bothered. Anyways, hearing what Shiro had said, Madison couldn't help but shake her head. Well, I guess I'll look for someone specialized in paperwork, which might be a little hard, considering the fact that the demons are a race that focus on strength. All of them are basically battle junkies. Madison shrugged. Well, that's more your problem than mine, ha ha ha. Good luck. Shiro laughed as Madison rolled her eyes. While they traveled towards the demon continent, Shiro showed off what her mech could do, and asked if any one of them wanted a mech of their own. However, the party rejected since they already had their own fighting style and changing to mechs would actually hinder them. However, if it was a suit of armor that enhanced their abilities, they wouldn't mind since Shiro had shown them the armors before. After hearing their response, Shiro made a mental note of it and decided to work on personal armor units when she had time. Each of these armor will be tailored to each of them so that it brings out their best abilities. It'll take a while to design, but the payoff would be worth it. Upon arriving in the demon continent, they immediately made their way to the central region, since that was where the majority of the demons resided. Plus, after the fall of the candidates and Madison becoming the queen, Asphil had everyone put their focus on the central region since Shiro had ordered her to do this in order to make things easier. Calling for Asphil, the party waited outside of the new capital. Rushing towards them, they spotted the silhouette of the demon that they had been waiting for. I apologize for not greeting you sooner, Your Highness. Congratulations on your ascension. Asphil kneeled down in front of Madison as she nodded her head. It took a while, but we'll proceed with the plan now. How are the demons? Are they comfortable with the thought of living in Asheria while abiding by the rules? Madison asked, as Asphil made a difficult expression. I've tried to prepare them, but many aren't listening to me. Even if I try to suppress them with my strength, they said that the Queen has not spoken personally, so they won't follow the order. Asphil replied, as Madison frowned. So they'll only follow it if I show myself, huh? Indeed. You may need to be forceful in your methods, since you need to remember that many of these demons were subjects of other candidates. Asphil reminded, as Madison narrowed her eyes before sighing. All right, I'll handle this. Madison shook her head. Good luck, Maddie. If you need us, we'll be here. Lyrica encouraged as Madison smiled. I'll keep that in mind. Stomping down, shadows swirled in front of her as a portal opened up. Stepping through the portal, she disappeared from the area as dark clouds loomed over the main city. Boom! Flashes of red lightning could be seen as a demonic aura wrapped around the entire city. Those that were weak found themselves unable to move from the fear. The clouds started to swirl towards a single point as Madison appeared above the city. Her red hair fluttered in the wind as an army of demons appeared behind her. Demon Queen Skill, March of Demonic Generals. Their bodies were created from shadows, and they donned black and red armor that radiated cursed energy. Each of them felt no weaker than Tier 5 as their weapons gleamed menacingly. Looking down at the city, she could see all the demons looking at her with shock, while their weapons quivered in their hands. "When the Queen arrives, are you not to bow in her presence?" Madison asked coldly, as her Tier 6 aura crashed into the bodies of the demons, focusing them to kneel against the ground. Those that tried to put up a fight had their knees broken and forced to kneel. "Despite showing myself, it seems like you wish to fight against me, the one that rules this race from now on. If you want to rebel, show yourself so that I can give you a swift death. If you don't, your ending will make you wish you revealed yourself." Madison warned as killing intent drenched the city, coloring it with a red hue. Whistle. Watching this performance, Shiro wanted to wipe away a silent tear. "Look how Maddie has grown. She's a fine woman now." Shiro praised in her mind as Nimue decided to not comment at all. Seeing that no one revealed themselves, Madison sighed in her mind but didn't express it on her face. "Since there are none that want to revolt, I presume that the rest of you are devoted to me then. If I wanted your life, the only answer I should be hearing is yes." Madison narrowed her eyes as her shadow loomed over the city like a bad omen of what's to come. Looking at Madison, who floated above the city, the demons had no choice but to obey, since her power far surpassed theirs. "From now on, we'll be going to a city known as Asharia. There are humans, elves, and spirits, and you are to cooperate with them from now on. Should I find out that you have been actively attacking or antagonizing them, I will end you before you can even beg," Madison announced, as the demons started to discuss between themselves with a frown. Hearing this, Madison narrowed her eyes. "Silence! If you have a problem with my decision, stand up." Madison glared as a few demons swallowed their saliva and stood up. "And what problem will that be?" Madison asked. However, before they could say anything, a spear of shadows erupted out from the ground and pierced them high into the sky. "That's my response. Talk to me when you can put up a fight. I'll give you a day to pack up, or else we're leaving you behind. If you are left behind, who knows what my generals might do to you." Madison smiled as a portal opened up behind her. Stepping through, the Guardians floated in the sky as if they were keeping an eye on the capital. Seeing this, a few of the demons panicked and quickly packed up everything that they needed. "Ugh, I'm not doing that again." Madison sighed as she returned to the party. "What do you mean? That was great, brought a tear to my eye." Shiro patted her shoulder while pretending to wipe a tear away. "Whatever. Asphil, what do you think?" Madison asked as Asphil kneeled in front of her. "I think that was fantastic, Your Highness. Most of the demons here are fearful of your power. As the queen of the race, who has demonstrated your ability to kill everyone if you wanted, they are now respectful towards you, fearing the consequences. Even if you tell them to die, they will follow through." Asphil replied as Madison nodded her head. "Not my favorite way of trying to rule them, but it's most effective short-term, I guess." Madison scratched her hair. "Don't worry, we can sort out the details later. I've already sent out a notice in Asharia, and the citizens are fine as long as they're tame, I suppose. Of course, I did warn them about taunting them and raising conflict. If they were to do so, they'll be punished accordingly. All that's left is to scan the capital into the city and finalize the platform that they'll be living in. I think we'll be able to fit everything in just before the start of the new age." Shiro smiled as Madison nodded her head. "I wonder if the demons will actually get along with the other races, since they can't be forced to get along with one another properly." Madison sighed. "I'm sure it'll be fine. Plus, we're not partial with the punishment. Regardless of who committed the offense, the punishment will be the same," Shiro reassured as they made their way back to Asharia. "My name is Felsha Elenes, one of the retainers for the 19th ranked candidate who had passed away after the revolution caused by the Demon Queen. Her presence through the continent has been nothing short of fearful, as everyone in her path was slaughtered without resistance. Asphil, one of the higher-ranked candidates, was actually turned into a slave. When she had appeared, all the respect we had for her was lost immediately, and no one bothered to listen to her. Unless the Queen arrived, there was nothing she could do. She couldn't kill us either, since she lost that freedom as a slave. Without the Master's permission, she couldn't do anything. That was against how most demons lived. Renobishon 7. If we were retainers, we had more freedom compared to her. We could slaughter if we wished. For her to bow her head like this, it was disdainful. Or at least, that's what we thought, until the day she descended to the capital. The entire world seemed to change from her presence as dark clouds loomed over the city. A legion of demons followed behind her as each one felt more powerful than Asfil herself. Her crimson hair contrasted against the dark skies, and her tyrannical aura crushed us to our knees. The prideful demons had their knees broken, and they were forced to kneel as the feeling of death permeated through the city. My hands quivered without stop as she spoke, as fear gripped my throat. Someone like this is our queen. It is what I thought when fear filled my mind, but at the same time, a sense of pride. Our queen was someone that could bend the world to her will. If we were to invade the humans, their land could become our territory. We wouldn't need to constantly fight amongst ourselves to find a place to sleep. However, my expectations were shattered when she mentioned the fact that we were to live in a city of humans, elves, and spirits. Asfil mentioned this before, but that was impossible, right? Why would such an imposing demon queen ally herself with those three races? The spirits have long lost their queen, so they were nothing compared to us. The elves and humans were similar. There was no way we could get along. And yet, the queen was forcing us to do so. Moving to this new city was strange, to say the least. We had to do something called registering with something similar to a system, but it was to prove our citizenship. We had to agree to rules that were put in place, and by doing so, we're given fair treatment. Impossible, I thought. It was ridiculous to believe that they would actually give us demons fair treatment. They would obviously stick up for the three. Normal-looking races like they have before. My first day in this city was surprising. The sheer size of this place was impressive, as it was apparently made by one person, or rather, one spirit. The queen of the spirit race. Despite not having a queen for so long, my instincts told me that a normal demon would lose to a normal spirit, 100% of the time. The boost that they received from their queen far surpassed what our queen was able to grant. I was surprised. How could someone so fearsome be outclassed with such a clear disparity? The day our queen appeared, she was like a malevolent god. But even though we have never seen the spirit queen, we instinctively knew that she could slaughter our entire race without a second thought. The mere thought sent shivers down my spine, and like the rest of the demons, I decided to behave myself, for now rather than test the limits to show how unfair they were. When I went to a local bar down the street, the glares that I received proved everything to me. I knew it. Coexisting with them is impossible. Even now, the killing intent radiating from them was obvious. However, the bartender only slammed his hand down against the table. He reprimanded them for disregarding the rules before smiling towards me and offered me a drink. I was speechless since he had no hostility. It felt strange, but I played along for now. While drinking, I exchanged some stories with the bartender while he served other customers. These stories could be mundane or the conflicts between the candidates, but he replied with similar stories, before laughing about how similar they were in terms of experiences, even if their race was different. Perhaps it was the alcohol, but I couldn't help but laugh as well. But this thought was put to the test as I recognized the patron that had just entered, an old enemy. He killed my allies and family while I killed his. His killing intent immediately spiked as he glared at me with anger. Even with the alcohol, my sense for battle was telling me to retaliate as I grabbed my sword. However, the bartender tapped my shoulder and said that I should trust in the ruler of the place. Strangely, his confidence in the ruler convinced me as I lowered my guard and sat back down to enjoy my drink, while keeping an eye on him, in case I needed to fight back. Before the sword could reach me, however, a flicker of white appeared in my sight as the man was suppressed and chained up immediately. Haste, the first day, and it's actually the humans causing more trouble. Tisk, tisk. I'll need to talk to Keiko and have her give the humans a talk. You okay? I hope his actions have not scared you. A white-haired woman smiled. Her aura was so calming and warm that I felt safe in her presence. the opposite of our queen where there was fear. "Ah, I'm fine, thank you," I replied without thinking. My voice sounded calm, which was different to my usual tone. "That's good. I hope you enjoy the city since it's supposed to be a safe place for all races. I won't tolerate any infighting amongst you, so I'll deal with this one myself. After all, I've warned him about the consequences." She smiled. I shuddered. Her warm aura turned frigid, and I felt like I died several times from the short exposure to the killing intent. The ruler of this place was more fearsome than what we believe. Standing above the main tower with her eyes closed, Shiro sighed heavily while monitoring everything that was going on. With the recent integration of demons, the main problem was the humans that held a grudge against the demons after countless years of conflict. The spirits were fine, since they trusted her judgment and treated the demons fairly, while the elves never interacted with the demons much to begin with. Sure, there were small skirmishes every now and again, but they were sensible enough to understand that infighting was not allowed. Thankfully, the actions of spirits, elves, and a few humans allowed most of the demons to feel a bit more comfortable in this city. While they still had their worries and were on guard most of the time, they could at least relax when they were in their section of the city. Not many ventured out to the center, but those that did had good impressions, which was what Shiro had hoped for. "Heis, it's going to be a long night," Shiro muttered as she snapped her fingers. Figures appeared around her, as they each had a special uniform. They were specially trained to help Shiro discipline troublemakers. While drones could apprehend those that broke the law, the offender would undoubtedly be heavily injured, which was not desired. Since spilling blood out in the open was rather disturbing, it was better to torture them away from public sight. "I'm sure you've been informed of your duties, so I hope you can perform properly tonight. Once tonight is over, things should settle down a little. Don't be biased towards any race and remember that the demons are no different from you, okay?" Shiro instructed as they said nothing and nodded their heads. "Good, you're dismissed." Shiro smiled as they disappeared. Watching them spread themselves throughout the city, Shiro's lips curved up into a smile as this city was shaping up as expected. The military training that was now supported by the sect showed great improvements in martial techniques and allowed them to fight other adventurers efficiently. The shops were managed by both the Rising Sun and Winter's Grace, since they had high standings amongst the humans, making trade easier. The guild had requested that she have a branch in the city, but she was going to set that aside for now and determine whether or not it was worth it later. But right now, she was more inclined to leave them out of the city. Sensing some conflict nearby, Shiro only shook her head and disappeared. The first night of demons entering the city resulted in the arrest of over 600 humans that had broken the rules, 7 demons and 3 elves. The spirits didn't cause any trouble, as they were the most obedient. Everyone that was locked up had to go through a screening process to see if they're allowed back into the city. Depending on the circumstances, they might just be banned from the city altogether. Flicking through their files, Shiro had cameras in each of their cells as she rested her cheek on her palm and yawned. While she could go for a few days without sleep, it didn't mean she couldn't get tired. Plus, sleep was necessary to give your mind a rest. However, with all the things that she needed to do, even after giving most of it to other people, there was still a table full of documents. Closing her eyes for a moment, Shiro rested her mind. Hearing the door open, she glanced back and saw that it was Nantian who entered the command center. "You seem tired." He smiled while handing her some hot chocolate, a little, though I would have expected you to give me juice rather than hot chocolate. Shiro smiled lightly. "You seem tired, so something warm to relax you is probably better than juice." Nantian shrugged. Taking the hot chocolate, she took a sip while Nantian sat next to her. "I've already finished the documents that you gave me. I swear, I'm basically your secretary now." He laughed as Shiro grinned. "Who else does such a good job? I can't let go of a talent if I see one," Shiro replied, while splitting some of the documents with him. "I haven't even said anything yet, and you've already pushed your work to me, Nan." Tien smiled helplessly. "Surely you be so mean as to come here and watch me do all the work now, would you?" Shiro smirked. Shaking his head, he flicked through the documents. Most of these files are on people that were arrested yesterday. Nantian muttered as he could see that over 70% of them were arrested on account of assault towards the demons over personal grudges. Ranobis. Yeah, the hostility between demons and humans is quite high after all. But right now the demons are better than the humans, since they actually know how to follow the laws and not attack humans on sight. There's some unrest in the human community as well as posts made on the internet, but Keiko is dealing with it. Plus, even if they don't like it here, they can just leave. It's not like I'm forcing them to be here. If anything, it just opens up more space for other races. Shiro sighed while placing her hot chocolate to the side. Excluding the humans, I'm guessing everyone else is fine with demons, Nantian asked, as Shiro nodded her head. Men, I had the demons stay on their own platform, but a few wanted to go out to the center. I didn't stop them, of course, since they would need to interact with one another sooner or later. Might as well get it over and done now. A few of the demons understand that there's not much difference between them, and it was just a matter of war-brewing hatred. I think if we give it a week or so, we'll be able to start integrating demons into our own military and train them to use mechs once Madison solidifies her rule. Even with her demonstration, you can tell that a few of the demons are unsatisfied with living in this city. Unfortunately, we don't have a week. Things will get awfully busy from now on. I don't even know if I'll be able to help you with paperwork. Nantian smiled as Shiro shrugged. Maybe I should lock you up in a basement and have a tube that sends food and paperwork to stop you from running away. Scary. Let's hope it doesn't get to that stage then. Nantian stood up and collected the empty mug. For now, though, I'll help you out with the remaining paperwork. We should probably hire more people for paperwork, he said while looking at the giant stack. Shaking his head, he stored them into his inventory. Leaving already? Why not just do the paperwork here? Shiro asked, as she pointed to the chair. I was wondering if I would distract you or something. Pfft, I'll be fine. I can multitask anyway. Shiro reassured with a smile as Nantian nodded, and sat back down. Bringing out the paperwork, he scanned them into the computer before tapping away at the keyboard. Glancing over at Nantian, Shiro appreciated how seriously he took the work. Plus, his work efficiency was high. Who was the one that said you won't be distracted? I can see that you're already admiring the side view. Nimue reminded as Shiro had already stopped working on her paperwork. I'm just resting, okay? Shiro glanced to the side. Right, why don't you just give all the paperwork to him and you can rest longer? Nimue rolled her eyes as Shiro paused. Good idea. Tapping the paperwork slightly, she created a small contraption under the table, which continuously increased his pile by taking sheets from her. After a short while, Entienne noticed that something was wrong, since he should have long finished his stack. Glancing over to the side, he saw that Shiro had fallen asleep with her head on her arms while all the paperwork was being transported to his pile. Smiling softly, he shook his head and reached into his inventory. Grabbing a blanket, he placed it over her body before scanning all of the paperwork in the room and started to work away at it while Shiro rested. Men. Groaning softly, Shiro sat up and yawned before stretching her body. Seeing that all the paperwork was done, she had a happy smile on her face. I knew I could count on him, she thought, while glancing at the blanket that was placed over her. Pausing for a moment, she chuckled softly before storing it away in her inventory and walked out of the command room and sent her senses out, while checking up on everything that she needed to do. Surprisingly, her to-do list was rather small now, as Nantian had been, completing them all while she slept. Finding him in the mech hangar, she saw that he was going around for a maintenance check on all the cadets and giving them some tips according to the information he had gathered. What a slave driver. Letting him do all the work while you slept. Nimue smirked as Shiro was about to reply with a smug grin when they sensed Estrella's aura fluctuating violently between Tier 5 and 6. Immediately switching her attention to her mana realm, Shiro could see that that island that Estrella was on started to change with her attempt at evolution. A thin, dark barrier surrounded the border, making it seem like the island was being sent into her pocket dimension. Glancing up at the ceiling of her mana realm, Shiro could see golden runes melt into liquid that slowly dripped onto the top of the barrier before diffusing across the surface. Understanding that her identity as a demi-god was changing Estrella's evolution slightly, Shiro sat patiently and didn't remove her eyes from the island at all. She could barely make out Estrella's figure on the island, as she looked as though she was in pain. She was currently gritting her teeth while her eyebrows were furrowed. A layer of darkness was spreading across her skin, and it slowly reached her neck. However, a golden choker, which seemed to be made from divine energy, prevented the darkness from covering her entirely. Seeing that her expression relaxed ever so slightly, Shiro sighed softly, since that darkness might cause her to fail should it cover her entire body. Slowly, golden crests appeared on the back of her hands and in the center of her chest. The crests was a side view of a woman which slowly disappeared, taking the layer of darkness with it. Bang! Piercing into the realm of Tier 6 and solidifying, the barrier was completely covered with darkness, which prevented them from seeing Estrella, but they knew that this was a good sign since it was acting like a cocoon. She had already passed the hardest step, so the rest should be smooth sailing. Watching the barrier shrink, Shiro narrowed her eyes as the barrier stretched itself over Estrella's body. Krrrr! Cracks started to spread across the surface as it shattered apart to reveal Estrella, whose appearance had changed slightly. She now had pure black hair, with streaks of purple. Her eyes were black, and a ring of purple could be seen near the pupil. She wore a sleeveless skin-tight undershirt that was connected to a choker. A black sleeveless shirt which exposed her shoulders, which connected to a waistguard. Long strips of fabric flowed down the side of the waistguard as she wore a short skirt and tights with a pair of boots. She also wore a pair of separated sleeves that bloomed out around the wrist area and were colored black with hints of purple. Under the sleeves were a pair of black gloves that was a perfect fit for her hands. Of course, Shiro's main focus was not her appearance but rather her title card, Estrella LVL 501 Dimension Walker. Reading her class name, Shiro was a little surprised, since this could possibly mean that she could seek out the old gardens that might have failed. Quickly dashing to Estrella's side, she helped Estrella sit down properly before checking her body with analysis to make sure that she was feeling okay. Seeing that she was just a little tired, Shiro sighed in relief. Opening her mouth, Estrella wanted to say something, but she lacked the strength to speak after a tough ascension to Tier 6. You can tell me later. For now, though, just rest. Shiro smiled as Estrella furrowed her brows before nodding her head. Making her a home for the time being, Shiro placed her in the bed. Nimue, help me look after Estrella, just in case something happens to her. Shiro glanced at Nimue, who was already making herself comfortable in the house. Rango, don't worry, I know. Her ascension into Tier 6 has been more violent compared to the others. Nimue nodded. Maybe because it finished sooner than expected. We did estimate that she would finish in a few days. Shiro frowned while looking at Estrella, who was sleeping soundlessly on the bed. Shiro knew that the evolution must have taken quite a lot out of her, as she didn't even have the strength to say anything. Maybe. With Estrella finishing her evolution a bit earlier than expected, you now have 5 Tier 6 beings with more to come as well. You, Estrella, Madison, Nantien, and Decilia. Lysandra is still undergoing her evolution. Keiko is digesting the knowledge you gave her, and your parents are also working hard. Honestly, the fact that we have so many Tier 6 beings makes us a match for any of the queens. We can probably eliminate the most powerful ones the moment the age begins so that they can't get any stronger. Nimue suggested. I agree. But we don't know where their main anchors are. Let's not rush it. While the lower tier queens are nothing, compared to us, there are those that still pose a big threat to us, such as the Chimera Empress. I remember her giving us quite some trouble, even though she was heavily injured. Shiro frowned as Nimue nodded her head. Talking to Nimue for a little longer, Shiro focused on reality. Nantien had already finished all the things that were on her to-do list, and he was making his way back to the command center. Seeing Shiro standing on one of the platforms that overlooked the mech hangar, he walked up to her with a smile. Did you enjoy your nap? He asked, as Shiro nodded her head. I enjoyed it even more, knowing that you had actually done all my work for me. Shiro smiled. Well, it was better for me to get it done quickly than leave it for later. True. Also, Estrella's reached Tier 6 now. Her evolution seemed a little rushed, so she's just recovering from the backlash right now. Now that we have 5 Tier 6 beings, I think a head-on confrontation with a few of the high-ranked queens is okay. An example being the Beast Queen, Theria. We know where one of her branch anchors is, so we can probably get rid of it quickly. Shiro suggested. But how many branch anchors does she have? Surely the one in Clomore isn't the only branch anchor that she has. With anchors giving the queens more strength the longer they're around, the Clomore anchor must have given her quite the boost. Fighting her won't be easy unless we can get rid of all her branch anchors, making her lose a good portion of strength. Plus, our information about her is limited. Nantian cautioned. I know. My future self had also cautioned me about Theria, so I won't charge in blindly. I'll get as much information as possible before attacking her. I'd say she should be one of our top priorities considering the fact that she'll get stronger as time passes and she's already got a head start with her anchors. Shiro frowned. We'll see how it goes. For now, though, let's just do what we can. Nantian smiled as Shiro nodded her head. Sitting around the table, the 5 primordial gods all had serious expressions on their face. Even the cheerful Gaia, who had been rather infatuated with Shiro, didn't look at the monitor showing Shiro at all. They were instead focusing on a timer, along with a monitor, that showed the spirit of the garden crumbling away in the pocket dimension. The timer ticked away as there were 4 hours until it reached 0. 4 hours left, huh? Gaia muttered as she looked at the timer. Man, after 4 hours, the entire world will change. Nyx nodded her head while drinking some tea. I hope Shiro overestimates the queen she'll fight first, since she'll fully understand the importance of anchors once the world changes. Gaia sighed. If Shiro overestimated them, she'll be able to fight with the right amount of caution. Do not worry about her. I'm sure she'll be able to handle them with ease, though it's a little annoying to have our messages censored by the system, so that we can't tell her more about the anchors. Tartarus shook his head, as Uranos agreed. That's fine, though. The system won't be able to do much during the second part in terms of censorship. We'll be able to provide her with as much information as possible. Uranos shrugged. But if she's not careful, she'll be killed before the second part. Even if she's a demigod right now, she's still in a lot of danger considering the powers that a few queens have. Gaia pouted, since these old men didn't share the same worry she had for her darling. Just trust in Shiro, Gaia. Aren't you the one who believes in her the most, out of us? Nyx chuckled as the other 3 gods nodded their heads. Che, just because I believe in her doesn't mean I don't get worried about her getting hurt. Gaia rolled her eyes before looking at the monitor that showed Shiro tapping away at a keyboard while talking to Nantian. Please, don't underestimate the power of anchors. Gaia thought with worry. Watching the timer tick down, the gods could only watch in silence.